Joining me tonight on Rock and Roll Damnation, we have the the two guys that are the brains trust behind the Rock is Not Dead Festival, Shane Dunn and Pablo Kemper, with us tonight to put the final layer of icing on this cake of interviews. Welcome, Shane. Welcome, Pablo. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules in putting this festival together to have a chat with me.
No, thank you for having us, and thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, Brains Trust has been a bit generous, but yeah.
We have a brain between us.
That's about it.
Well, we're trusting in this, so it's all good. and so are 8 amazing Australian independent bands. So what you guys have managed to put together and achieve and promote in Rock is Not Dead really is, an outstanding feat. It shows a passion and a dedication that is lacking in this industry. And for you guys to step up and to, invest everything that is the two of you into this really does deserve recognition and a tip of the hat. How did the idea of doing a festival like Rock is Not Dead come to life?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. Well, basically, it came from our Facebook group that Pablo and I are a part of. We did a thing called Aussie April last April, where we were trying to share and promote some Aussie bands. And from that, it just sort of grew, and we started to think, well, hang on, these bands need to get out there and be seen and be heard. And we're doing everything we can in that page to give them a forum. But we thought, well, Mark and I both, or Pablo, have to get this out front and up here. Pablo is his Facebook name, and his real name is Mark. And I have a hard time flipping between the two. So if I get the mistake, I'll call him Mark. So Mark and I got talking. We went to a few events together, and we kept talking to the point where we thought we'd give it a crack. One meeting in my lounge room here about 6 months ago, and we went, let's give it a go. And that's what we've done.
Definitely. Yeah, as we were talking about too, we both attended the Never Say Die festival at the Mansfield Tavern, and seen what was happening there with all Australian bands, and yeah, just the seed was planted there as well. And I take my hat off from Dan from Ablaze for putting that together. I heard him on another podcast with Nicky Rao, and he said he done it in 7 days. And I just take my hat off to him. I don't know how he did it. It's a fantastic job.
Yeah, look, the bunch of bands that ended up there, Shotgun Mistress and Ablaze from Melbourne, who were a part of another festival that unfortunately didn't get to do its scheduled date in Brisbane. I mean, those guys are guns and machines, and they're both veterans, what they do down here in Melbourne. Both incredible bands, both amazing live performances, and embody the spirit of rock and roll. I'm friends with both bands, so I'm blessed in that regard. And my friendship with the Blaze goes back almost a decade now. So they really are, two of Melbourne's great independent bands. For them to go and do what they did with the skills that they have was truly remarkable. And I guess that was one of the questions that I had for you guys, was that for those guys and the Never Say Die festival and everything that it stood for, what inspired Rock is Not Dead. I think for you guys to have gone and looked in your own backyard of Queensland and found, 7 incredible independent local bands, although Goatzilla are through X Music. How did you go about selecting the bands for this festival?
think a lot of it came down to the bands that we enjoy. I mean, I've seen all of the bands except Slythr. I haven't seen them yet, but we've seen all of the bands live, and know that they're going to put on a fantastic show, every single one of them. Avalanche just annihilate the place when they play. They are a fantastic live band, same as Goatzilla, same as Stone Rising, same as Snakebite. It just keeps going on and on and on. There wasn't really a hard choice. It was whether they were available and whether they'd say yes.
Actually, the hardest choice was deciding in the end who, because we had so many actually come to us
That's right.
and want to deal with us. It really was. That was probably the hardest thing because we could have had 12 or 14 bands easy, but we had to draw the line at 8.
Yeah.
I think, just in the selection that you've got, there's a variety which all has the common theme of rock and roll. And it all has its little flavors to it. I think it's a really well curated selection of bands. There's no two bands that are, exactly the same on that bill. Was that also something that you guys were conscious about?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think if you look around, punk have got their festivals, metal side have got theirs. There was never really anything for the rock side of it. So we just looked at it and thought, yeah, that's a void that we could fill. The bands that we've got, like you said, all have their little differences, but they're all pretty much rock. I mean, God, Goatzilla are a little bit harder, but that still fits in with what we're trying to do. So, yeah, we thought it'd be a nice mix. Really happy with the bill in the end.
And I think when we were first looking at it, we were looking at it from the point of view that, we're of the age of the pub rock era. And we were looking at how do we bring on, how do you make pub rock great again? And thought, well, you got to start off with pub rock bands. And that's really what we've got. We've got that traditional, what you would have heard in the 80s at your local pub. And that's what we went for.
Yeah, they're real meat and potatoes, real raw Australian sound. That's what we were looking for, and that's pretty much what we got.
I think I've referenced it in a few of the interviews that I've done with the bands, but it really is great to see such a resurgence of that pub rock sound. There are so many great bands that put on great shows that, a lot of people possibly aren't aware of out of their home state. I've got to admit that, 6 out of the 8 bands I haven't seen on the Rock's Not Dead lineup. But that's because I'm in Victoria, and this is such a homegrown event that it really does make you, and is the reason why I'm coming up too, is to not only support you guys but to check out these bands as well and to see what's happening in other markets, because there is so much talent in our backyard, in our own backyard in this country. It's only going to take something to start to trigger a chain reaction. And I think, Rock is Not Dead is probably one of those steps towards setting that chain reaction off. People see that there's a spirit back in the pubs, and that there's a willingness for these bands to give it their all and to play and promote and help themselves with the guidance of something like Rock is Not Dead. They can't go wrong.
Yeah,
There's also a generation. Sorry, Mark.
No, it's a real golden era of Australian music at the moment. I don't think people realise every state has a scene where there's such fantastic bands that just aren't getting the exposure. And I mean, if what we're doing gives it any little bit of exposure to these bands and helps them out, all for it. That's what we want. We want to get these bands out there that people should be hearing.
And there's generations within our playlist. We've got Slythr that are starting. And I hope they don't take offence to this. They're kids. They really are only, 19, 20 years of age. And then we've got the more mature guys that are like your Goatzillas and your Snakebites that are had older. But we've got generations of rock being played. Not only have we got different types of rock, but we've got different generations. And then you've got the one in the middle with the Tailor Made Rejects. They're sort of like your late 20s, early 30s. So there is not only is it a balance of different sounds, it's a balance of age groups.
Mm, definitely.
Yeah, I think, in the interview that I did with the guys from Slythr, I mean, there really is an excitement, and uh, certainly for me, they've really piqued my interest. I mean, I love their EP
Mm,
they've got on socials at the moment, and just talking to them. And again, I hope they don't take offence to it, but they are the younger side of the generation. These are the guys that will be keeping it alive. And to hear who their influences are in Hailstorm and guys that have been around for 20 years, it's just another passing of the baton. And I think these guys, though Slythr themselves, who admitted they haven't seen too many bands on the lineup, will come away from that with something new from those guys, and hopefully the guys that have been around for a little bit will take something from the youth as well. So when you talk about generations and different age demographics in bands, you guys have got it covered. And
Yeah,
it's such a good lineup, and I'm so happy with the way that you've done that. It's a great playing field for everybody that's there.
thank you.
So when it comes to Brisbane and the music scene and the original music scene, how would you best describe Brisbane? Is it thriving? Is it underground? Is it becoming more mainstream?
Actually, I got to say, I have a pretty diverse taste in music. Brisbane's got a massively strong, hard, heavy metal, that metalcore, death metal. That scene, that's very strong, and some of Australia's best bands have come, out of Brisbane in that regard. Um, and I think punk's pretty strong up here. Rock is, um, obviously we have a great amount of bands, but I'm not really being seen that much. I think Melbourne, to give Melbourne credit, I think Melbourne really is the rock capital of Australia. I think no disrespect to the bands that are on our bill, but if you look at the ones that are coming up that are well known, they are predominantly coming out of Melbourne, where Brisbane was that heavier sound. But we're proud to bring what we're going to bring. And we hope, by having such a diverse sound that we can appeal to people that perhaps aren't the rock people that might be slightly heavier. And at the same token, the people are that more laid back might appreciate that, there'll be a little bit of grungy, heavy, riffy, punky stuff coming as well. So we'll just have to, yeah. But the scene up here is incredibly difficult at the moment. If you have a look at ticket sales, I think the economy's starting to bite. Even some of the international acts aren't getting the ticket numbers up here now. A bit concerning for us, but we're determined to push through. But yeah, I think it's a pretty tough scene at the moment. So yeah,
yeah, especially in our genre, the hard rock side, it's nigh on impossible to get any traction at all. I mean, whether it be media or ticket sales, it's really hard. I mean, like Shane was saying, I mean, we have great punk scene that goes right back to the Saints. I mean, they're original Brisbane band started the whole punk scene up here. I mean, it's just getting harder and harder. But we have some great bands. We have some great young bands coming through, but they just seem to be, I don't know if it's treading water, if you'd say, or it's just, yeah, it's hard to get traction. We just seem to be stuck a little bit.
So do you think with something like Rock is Not Dead that, obviously, the profile of the hard rock scene or the rock scene in Brisbane will have a bit more attention paid to it? And when I ask that is that, have you noticed, other promoters sort of snooping or asking questions or watching what you guys are doing?
oh certainly. We know that there's people out there watching us. Look, we're just two uh, music enthusiasts. We're not here to rewrite anything. We're just here to share our passion. And if we can bring anything to the industry, then we've brought something good. We're not going to suggest we can, reinvent the wheel. But what we would love to be, I tell you, no joke, we'd love to be known as the good guys, the guys that are doing it because it's our passion. We want to be those people that we can be trusted. We can be honest. What we say is what we do. When we tell you we're going to do something, we're going to do something. That's what we'd like to be known as. And if we can get the industry to kick along at the same time, that'd be fantastic. But we have a long game. Our long game is just to continue to keep the passion and to bring music to people that perhaps hasn't had the opportunity to see it or hear
it. Absolutely.
And I think that's such a great, attitude to go into all of this with. It's not about the fame or fortune or limelight for you guys. It all comes from the heart, the spirit, and that's completely commendable. I mean, the Facebook group that you guys run, the Rock Is Not Dead page, I mean, just does nothing but champion, homegrown talent. In fact, I can't remember which, Shane, it must have been you. You shared one of my favourite Melbourne bands, The Revelation, tonight. With their latest song, Shattered. Now, Dean's a good mate of mine, and the story behind that song, I was present for a lot of that journey. So, he's such a talented and multifaceted guy. He has that soulful side to him, but he also has this incredible rock grit to him. And Shattered is just an extension of what they do to make example of one of the bands that I love the fact that you've championed.
Well, we've been championing Revelation for a long time. I mean, they came up on my Spotify as one of the most played songs. They're just a fantastic. Dean's a rock star. Him and Della Kamer, they're two guys they're just rock stars. You look at them and you think, those guys have got it. They've just got that it factor. He's such a talent, Dean. He's such a great guy. So, yeah, we'll champion any Australian band that's good.
I have a bad habit of doing what's called going down the rabbit hole. I spent nearly 90,000 minutes on Spotify last year, and I'll hear a song and I'll say I like that song, but rather than just follow the band, I'll just let Spotify search for it. And that's where I come across a hell of a lot of bands. And then I try to share them. It's not that I'm good at anything. I just listen. and I have a fortune that in my position of my job, I can listen to 8 hours of music every day. And that's what I do. And so the Revelation came up on a playlist and I listened to them. I went, holy crap, that guy's got one hell of a voice. And legitimately, I don't know the man, not like you guys. I'm just a punter that heard him. I went, bloody hell, that's terrific. Let's get that out there. And that's really how it is. And creating playlists and putting them up, I have nearly 180 or 190 playlists, 80 of them dedicated to Australian music. It's just about getting it out there. Because I'm putting Aussies down a little bit. We tend to not look in our backyard enough, and I was probably responsible for that for a long time too. I don't have the knowledge that Mark has on Australian bands, but there's that much good music out there. It's just crazy. So now that we have an opportunity to be involved with it, you're living your dream. You really are.
Yeah.
You're living your passion. So
like I was saying before, it is a real golden era. There's so many fantastic world-class bands that just aren't getting anywhere, which is so sad. I mean, any other country in the world, some of these guys would be huge, but for some reason they just can't seem to get the airplay. Well, we kind of know what the reasons are, but yeah.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to guys like yourself, and I guess me to a little degree, where I have the ability to talk to these people and put my interviews out there and share bands that excite me. I think there is a dawning and a changing of the guard in that regard. I think where we had hit that glory day, those glory days of the the late 80s and early 90s, which shaped, a lot of the heritage bands that we have today, or what would be considered heritage bands. Your Chocolate Starfishers, your Screaming Jets. You got, you guys that have been around for 30 years now, who are now, constantly touring and playing, festivals as, as money in the bank to a lot of promoters. We need to replace that generation. And I think in what you guys are doing, you're certainly going the right way about it. It's bringing the attention to these bands. Now, I guess in saying that, Rockers Not Dead is based in Brisbane for this show on the 1st of Feb. It features 7 out of 8 bands from Queensland. Are there any plans or any ideas to take this on a state-by-state basis and build showcases around each state?
We've definitely got a second show we're looking at doing. We're both self-funded, so this is our money. We're completely aware that you don't make a success overnight, but we are very mindful going into this that we don't want to be in a position where we want to put an event on and not be able to afford to pay for it before we actually do it. So this one is completely funded, completely paid for. Everything will be paid, even if we take a loss, which we're pretty much guaranteed we're going to do. The second one, originally we were going to do Adelaide for the same reason we were doing Brisbane, because it was that smaller, not always been looked after scene. But I think we're going to have to take it to a larger city and sort of guarantee our ticket sales. But that will all be based pretty much on how we recover from this one and what sort of time frame we need to get the money together to do the next one.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we'd love to be able to take it everywhere. But like Shane was saying, economics may not be that way. I mean, if we could get probably sponsorship maybe or something down the track, yeah, fantastic. But at the moment, yeah, it all comes out of our pocket. So it makes it a bit more difficult.
I guess as someone that's a fan and admires what you guys are doing, I'm going to actually put a call out in this. If there are any businesses, breweries, brands that would like to come on board and support these guys and have that same passion for rock and roll and that same vision, I urge you to get in touch with these two guys and talk to them, because they won't let you down. The passion and the drive and the commitment is, solid. It's the safest set of hands you could put an investment into, in my honest opinion, today. So that's a call out and a challenge to anybody who sees this. If they know of a business or a partnership or a brand that would like to jump on board, please get in touch with these guys, because they really do have a vision for the future of Australian rock and roll.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess if we step outside of Rockers Not Dead, who are your pick a band from each state that would be your favourite at the moment?
All right, start for me. Western Australia is definitely Ragdoll. I'm a big fan in South Australia of Audio Rain. Maybe run a fan page. Victoria's one hell of a hard place to decide because there's so much quality down there. But I guess better go with that one. The old Shotgun Boys. There's one in Sydney that is really not well known. They're well known as a cover band. They're called Alternate Grunge. But there's a guy called D.S. Stanley. He has a band called The Bleed. He's got some really nice stuff down in Sydney. And in Queensland, I better back the boys that I've asked to come myself, which are Tailor Made. I really like their sort of music. So that's probably right at the moment what it is for me around Australia.
I mean, West Australia, I love Street Creature. I just love what those guys are doing, bringing back that 80s glam sleaze sound that we all love. They're a great band. Adelaide, can't go past Audio Rain. They're so good. And the Babes, they're awesome too. Victoria, that's a real safest choice. Like you said, got the Shotgun Boys, you got the Revelation. Oh, I can't pick that one. Sydney, I'd go Wicked Things. Those guys are just, they're another one. They got that 80s sound. Four young brothers, they're on a trajectory, those guys. They are fantastic band. They're really, really good. And Queensland, I'm going to sit on the fence because I can't pick one because I don't want to alienate the rest of them. How's that? Too many.
I mean, that's cool in itself. I mean, obviously, you guys have curated this list, so all 7 Queensland bands are winners in everybody's eyes. So, you know, talk us through the process of putting this together. So, it started as a conversation and a sharing of a vision. At what point did you go, we can do this?
Meeting in my lounge room.
Yes, on a Saturday night.
Yeah. We've been talking, obviously being the 2 admins in a Facebook group or in an admin chat. We talked a bit about it, and then Mark said, let's do this. I said, well, come on over. I'd actually costed an event in my dream, and I had it all written up. And boy, did we get that wrong. Didn't realise marketing would be quite such a snake that costs you so much money. But yeah, that's where it started. But I think the strength of the 2 of us is we've both not trodden on each other's toes. We both know our strengths and our weaknesses. Mark had a much larger contact with all the bands, and I have more of a business background. So that's really how it's been going. One thing I'll say, and we mentioned this earlier on another chat, that we did earlier on, I don't know if anyone else has ever done this, is once we established who we had as bands, we created a messenger chat group, and we brought everyone in, and we said from the word go, we don't lie, we don't tell you any stories, this is what we're going to do, and we've told them everything. They're probably, in the beginning, maybe once or twice a week, but in the last 2 weeks, probably 4 or 5 times a day. This is what we got going for you. This is what we want to bring for you. This is it. And then that's something I think hopefully other people can do in the future, but it really works. And the bands know exactly what they're in for.
Yeah, complete transparency. I mean, how the other part that I was originally going to bring Avalanche to Brisbane because they hadn't been up here. As you know, I've been down to Melbourne a few times, and I caught them down there at the Beast, and I've seen them before, and I thought, this fantastic band, they need to get out and about up here. I haven't seen them up here for ages. And we just got talking, and me and Shane, and we kind of said, well, why don't we roll them into like a festival type deal with some Brisbane bands? That might be a better idea than bringing them up and having 1 or 2 bands play with them. Why don't we get a whole heap and make a big festival out of it? So yeah, that was how it grew from there.
So it's again, incredible story. It really is. And how hard was it finding the right venue?
We had a few false starts.
Uh,
We originally had a venue already booked, and unfortunately the date clashed with them doing renovations. So we had a mad scramble that we were just about ready to announce, and yeah, we had to go on a mad scramble and get a venue. And luckily the Koala Bar stepped in and helped us out, that Koala Tavern. So yeah, that was really helpful for us. So we looked at a few places in the Valley, which is our music district up here in Queensland, Brisbane, and yeah, we were tossing and turning, and yeah, we were lucky that we got the Koala Bar, the tavern, Koala Tavern came to the party. So
we found a lot of venues didn't reply to our emails, to be pretty fair as well, which I think because no one knew us. There's probably one of the biggest struggles we both have faced, is that we've been trying to make contact with people, whether it be managers, promoters, venues, etc. We had created an email address so that gave us a business presence, but we really got very few replies in return. And again, we'd like to thank the Australian Venue Co. because the original venue was also one of those, and the guy that was there really helped us get across into the second one at the Koala Tavern, which has the capability of holding 650 people, which people probably don't realise. And there's big bands have played there. We just are taking the smaller size room, which is capable of about 400, which gee whiz, we would love that.
I mean,
How's,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you go. You're fine.
So how has traction been in this last couple of weeks leading up to it? Have you noticed a stirring of interest? And I know that even a lot of shows in Melbourne are last minute ticket sales. They aren't pre-sold, which has to be a nightmare for guys like yourselves. Has there become much more of a stir within the community up there?
It's probably started in the last week. Last week we've our sales have increased a little bit, but up until then, no, it's been flat. It's been really, really flat. We've been fingernails are down to the nubs. That nervous that we weren't getting any sales at all at the beginning. So, but yeah, no, things are starting. We're really hoping on ticket sales at the door. So that's hopefully what the plan is.
All the bands have mentioned that. All the bands have said, even for themselves, they get like 50 people turn up at the last minute. We'd be quite genuinely stoked if every brand could bring 20 people. That would be amazing to what we've got coming now. Because even though we don't have a lot of ticket sales, we've got a lot of industry people. We've got some VIPs. We've got media like yourselves. We've got some podcasters. We've got, lots of things that perhaps small shows don't get the opportunity to have. So we're pretty stoked about that. But yeah, it's definitely, if you ever want to give yourself an ulcer, decide to put on a festival.
Yeah, you don't ever want to sleep again.
Yeah, I will say I have noticed in the last few weeks for some other events, there's some things that we would probably consider doing in our next show. First of all, we would definitely offer an early bird, and we'd make that a damn attractive offer. And then we saw someone offer group pricing, something again we would consider. I think what we have to do is we have to be unique. I think we got to make people want to come, not just for the fact that the music is amazing, but they get looked after. There's plenty of shows out there where you just pay your ticket, walk in, hear a band, walk out. We are not going to be that. We promise you that. There'll be things there that you won't see at other events.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a definite learning curve the whole way along. We're learning as we go, as you know. And yeah, like Shane said, there are things that we'd look at next time, but we're getting there. That's the main thing. We're getting there.
Look, it's it's an honour for me to be involved in something like this because I share the same sort of passion for our independent scene. I love finding new bands. I love finding new music, and I love finding it in my backyard. So I really do tip the hat to both of you for doing what you've done. It's an extraordinary job. It's a thankless job, but if my gut tells me anything, I think expectations will be exceeded. I think you'll find there'll be a following that turn up and celebrate this with you. I'm stoked to be coming up and to be a part of it, to see the event that you guys have put on. So again, I'd just like to thank you for what you've done for the rock and roll community. As we wrap this up, I guess.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. We appreciate everything you've done for us. You've been a fantastic help to me and Shane and all of us. So yeah, thank you.
If you'd asked us 3 months ago, would anyone want to interview us or podcast us or whatever, like we would have no. But I think this is our third or fourth thing recently, and we don't want fame. We really don't.
No.
We got great heads for radio. But we're just so appreciative of anyone that's come to us and put an effort in, no matter how big or how small, because without them, we would probably not have got to where we've got. So we just want to hope now we just have a great event. Everyone has a fun time, and we look forward to getting into the next one.
I mean, the one thing we do know is the bands will all deliver on the night. They're fantastic bands that are going to be there. So if you're not doing anything, come along and enjoy a night of great Australian rock and roll. You won't be disappointed.
And only those who know will know, keep your pants on.
All right, Shane and Pablo, thank you so much for your time. We'll wrap it up. The ticket link is in the description of this video. No doubt it'll be on the shares of this video. And look, I am so excited to be seeing you guys on the 1st of Feb for what it will become the inaugural Rock Is Not Dead Festival. Thank you, gentlemen, and have an amazing night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Catch you later.
Take care.